The final stage of the negotiations, which we're in, are really, the name of the game is breaking the will of developing countries. What has really marked these negotiations is tremendous amounts of courage from the developing world, and they've really been the voice of conscience in these negotiations and also the voice of science in these negotiations. The only countries talking about the level of emission cuts that we really need, like 45% cuts, the only people talking about 350 parts per million, the only people talking about 1.5 degrees are countries like Bolivia, are the small island states, are the African bloc. So as we get closer to D-Day, we're seeing all of these attempts to break these coalitions apart, to make side deals with individual countries, basically to buy people off. We saw it pretty spectacularly with the Prime Minister of Ethiopia stopping off in Paris on his way to Copenhagen and announcing a deal with Sarkozy that is the exact opposite of what he publicly said he would accept. He said he would stand up against what he called the rape of the continent. He said they would never accept anything but the maximum that countries are able to produce. And then he turned around and accepted $10 billion in financing, which is an insult, and a 2-degree increase, which in Africa translates into 3 to 3.5 degrees. So the key is, the reason why protests are so important is that actually it really does matter to the countries that are under so much pressure inside these negotiations to see how much support there is for them around the world and in the streets. Because what small governments are told, governments without much power, by the EU, by the US, by Canada, by the more powerful countries, is, do you really want to be the spoiler? Do you really want to get blamed for bringing this down? And they use this idea that all we want is a deal, but we don't only want a deal. We want a good deal, we want a fair deal, and that's why it's so important for people to get that message out there in the streets.